and famous grandmaster from Germany, Arkadi Naiditsch, and he was higher rated than me, about 70 points, and he played very aggressively with the black pieces. And this game will show you, if you play, if the opponent is playing overly aggressive with the black pieces, how you can take advantage of it. Even though he's a very strong and high rated opponent, and actually I managed to win this game in just about 20 moves with the white pieces. So that's why I want to show you this game. So I'm playing with the white pieces, and I play d4, knight f6, c4, e6. So there is a little, so we'll talk about opening here, because he likes to play the Nimzo-Indian defense if you play knight c3 here. But when you play knight f3, he plays d5. And after you play, for example, knight c3 here, he likes to play d takes c4, Vienna lines, and he's very well prepared in this opening, and he has played against top players in the world, against Kramnik, Anand, and he did well. Like, he managed to draw against them, and he won some games also. So he's basically a authority in this line. So that's why I didn't want to get in. I know some of these lines as well, but not as well as he knows, because he plays at a very high level. So I decided before the game to surprise him and play a move that is considered not very ambitious in the opening, but it will get into a normal position where we would just play chess. We don't just memorize like 20 moves of theory. So I played c takes d5. Now he can forget about taking on c4 in this game, and he's not going to be able to get into the Vienna lines, such as if you take and then white plays e4, bishop b4, and bishop g5 and c5. So it's a very complex opening, and you really have to know lots of theory here to be able to get something with the white pieces. Even if you know the theory, it's not for sure that you're going to get something. So that's why I played c takes d5. Now he has to take back with a pawn. If he takes back with the queen, it's just it's very bad. You will just play knight c3 and gain the tempo. And same as if he takes with a knight, it's a bad move. You will play e4 and get the control of the center. So he has to take back with a pawn, which he did. I played knight c3, and now he plays c6. After he played c6, he protected the pawn on d5. What do you think is the next move that he's trying to play here? Let's say if if it's his move again here, what's the next move for black? What do you think? Bishop? Bishop b4 you could play in this position, but you don't really want to take on c3 here, because after you take, white will have the pair of the bishops, so it's not really going to do much, bishop b4 here. But he couldn't play that move here, because here if he plays that particular move, it's bad. So he has to play this move first to protect his center, and then
bishop f5?
Absolutely. So he wants to play bishop f5 in this position, because his light square bishop, actually, this is a problem in a queen's gambit decline positions. Most of the time it's a problem for black to activate this piece, because he doesn't have many squares to go to. So that's why I played queen c2 here. It seems like I'm developing my queen a bit early, instead of just natural move bishop g5, which I think is very natural. But then if I play bishop g5, he can play bishop f5, for example. And now he's going to activate this bishop. So that's why I played queen c2. And now I'm preventing him from playing bishop f5. So it seems like, the diagonal is really open for the bishop, and he can move it anywhere, but it's not so easy to develop this bishop. For example, if you play bishop g4, then I can play knight e5. So bishop g4, it's not good. I will play knight e5. So, and bishop e6, you don't really want to put the bishop on e6 here, because it's just very passive. So I played bishop e7, a normal move. Now I develop my bishop. He could actually play g6 here, which is another move. But if he does that, I was planning to play bishop to g5. And now, if he plays bishop f5, I will play queen b3. And now it's not so easy for him to protect this pawn. Normally in this type of positions, black wants to play queen b6 here. When you attack the pawn with queen b3, he wants to play queen b6. But here he cannot do that since the knight is going to be hanging on f6. So he's going to have to play a move like b6, which is not really good because now c6 pawn is going to be weak. So white is slightly better here. So that's why, you know, he didn't play g6, he played bishop e7. I play bishop g5. From opening, it doesn't look like it's going to be a short game. It looks like it's going to be just a typical Queen's Gambit declined positional game where white will try to do a minority attack on the queen side. So he castled. I played e3. And now the main line in this position here is, you know, black plays knight bd7, and then rook e8, knight f8, and this is the typical setup here for black. But instead, my opponent decided to play an aggressive move. This is where he starts to play very aggressive, which is not correct because he didn't finish his development yet. As you can see, all these pieces are not developed. And normally you want to develop the pieces first before you start thinking about attack. Especially, it's very, very dangerous when you're playing with black because you're playing down a tempo. So he played knight e4, activating his knight. And now you have to play a very precise move in order to take advantage of it. Because if you don't play this move, then the strategy he chooses is going to be fine. So white to play now. What's the best move here for white? What do you think? Obviously the bishop is hanging and you need to make a decision. What to do with the bishop? He wants to take your bishop, yeah? If you think you know the move, just you can say the move. Bishop f4. Why do you think bishop f4 is better than the natural bishop takes e7? Absolutely. Here it's very important for white to get the control of the e4 square. So if I take on e7, it's going to be an inaccuracy because he will just take with the queen and he has a protection on the e4 knight. It's very well protected now. And then he will play bishop f5, knight d7, and complete his development. So that's why I don't want to take on e7. If I take on e7, then I'm not going to be able to take advantage of the inaccurate move knight e4 he played. So I go bishop f4, a good move, and now I'm threatening to take on e4 and win a pawn. So I'm threatening to take and win a pawn. So he has to play, he has to make a move to protect this knight. Because if he takes on c3, I will just take back with the pawn, and this whole idea, knight e4, knight c3, is it's questionable, because he wasted a lot of moves with his knight, right? He played knight f6, knight e4, knight c3. He spent 3 moves to capture my knight, which only moved once. So he lost 2 tempos. And next move, I will play bishop d3, attacking on h7. And after I castle, I will just play c4, attack the center. So white has a very comfortable position here, if he takes on c3. So when he played knight e4, I already knew here that he's not going to take on c3. And now he also cannot play bishop f5. I mean, he can play, but it's a bad move, because after bishop d3, now he's going to have a problem with the e4 knight here, because now I'm threatening to take and just win a pawn. And if he captures the knight on c3, I will take on f5 first, attacking on h7, and then I'm also threatening to take the knight. So it's black is at least losing a pawn. He probably has to go back on e4, then I can just capture. He takes back queen e4, and you can give a check here. But in this position, since black doesn't have any development, you can even just go king e2, and it's very safe. And this way now you can connect your rooks, rook a d1, rook a c1, and you have a very comfortable position. So you cannot play bishop f5 now. What can he do then? What can he do now to try to keep this knight on e4? Yes.
F5.
Absolutely. He has to play f5 now. Now he protected his knight on e4, but f5 really weakened the position of the king, in particular this diagonal and e5 square. So I just played bishop d3, developing my bishop. Now I played knight d7. Now let's stop here for a moment, and I want to see if you can find the best move and a plan here for white. Let's spend a few minutes and think, and you can let me know what do you think here. How should I play in this position? Of course, I can just play castle, but then if I castle, he plays, let's say, knight df6. I'm not really taking advantage of his, a little bit premature, active play with knight e4 and f5. So what do you think I should try to do in this position so I can take advantage of that? And again, remember, e4 square is very important. Right now he has the control of this square by playing f5, but he weakened the position a little bit. But if I can get the control of this square, then I can have very good attacking chances also. Any ideas? Yes.
I probably would knight to d2 with following up with f3.
You could do that, but then I'm also a little bit weakening my position too, and I'm spending like 2 moves trying to move the knight, and after f3 he will probably just knight d2, for example. He will play knight df6, and after f3 he could perhaps just take on d2, and it's about equal. Position is about equal here, so I don't think I have much advantage here. What else I can try to do? Because remember that he weakened the position by playing f5. Try to think of a little bit more aggressive idea here for white, to prepare an idea to attack.
Rook g1.
What's the idea behind that move?
g4.
Good. You got the right idea, but you can prepare that idea a little bit better.
h3.
Absolutely. You play h3. You play h3. No, because when you play rook g1 and g4, right? Then he can take, and your rook is going to be a little bit misplaced on g4. Like he can move his knight and discovery attack, so it's not going to be that good. So that's why you want to play h3, okay? And now I'm preparing to play g4 here. And once I play g4 and take on f5, now I will gain the control of the e4 square, which is very important. And I keep my king in the middle of the board because I can castle to the queen side if I have to, and also I haven't played g4 yet. So this move is also something that he needs to consider. But my main idea now, I want to play g4. So now he played g6, protecting on f5. But I think the better move maybe is just to play knight df6. After g6, he's already really weakening his position here. But if he plays this move, then I was planning to play knight e5, activating my knight. Let's say he plays bishop e6. Then I play f3, attacking the knight. He takes knight c3. I will take back with the pawn. Now I'm threatening to take the pawn on f5, and after he plays g6, if you were playing this position, white to play, what's the best move here for white? What do you think? Of course, I can just castle and have a slightly better position, but I have a stronger move here. Absolutely g4, yes. g4 very strong now, and if he takes, I will take back with the h-pawn now. My h-rook is very active, and now I am threatening to take on g6, and I don't think he can really defend this position here. So after g4, I have a very strong attack here. And even though my king is in the middle of the board, and we know according to the principles you shouldn't really attack, but again, there are no 100% rules in chess, and there are exceptions. Like in this position, my king is actually very safe on e1. Yeah, I mean, I can move it up to e2, and it will be very safe. Again, because all my pieces are very active. And if you look at the position, black doesn't have any active pieces. So after g4, I will be threatening to take on f5, and I will be opening up the position of the black king. So that's why maybe he didn't play this move knight gf6, so he played g6, and now he protected the f5 pawn. What should I do now? Did this really change anything? Should I change my plan? G4. It's a good idea to remember when you choose a plan, and if it doesn't change much, you didn't really make a move that prevented it, you kind of stick with the plan. Okay? If you think you believe the plan is a good plan, you go with it. Okay? Try not to change the plan in the middle. Okay? So now I play g4, now I'm threatening to take. But he was expecting me to play this move. So he played g5. And now it's going to get really sharp. There's going to be a lot of variations here. Now, for example, if he plays knight df6 here, I'm not planning to capture on f5, because then he will capture with the bishop. I will play knight e5 first, preparing to play f3 to move this strong knight. And now if he plays bishop e6, I will play f3, knight takes e3, and suddenly this is a transposition to the previous line that I showed you when he played knight df6 instead of g6 move. And now again, we reach the same position where I have a very active knight, my queen, bishop, also very active, strong bishop on f4, and now I will have some open files on g file or perhaps on h file, and very good position. So that's why, yeah, if he plays knight df6, yeah, after knight e5, again, white is much better here. So he played g5, attacking my bishop. I played bishop h2, and now he took. Again, it's very risky now for black, because his king is really open now. Now again, white to play. Let's see if you can find the best move here, because now my knight is hanging on f3, and if I cannot just take back with the pawn, because he will just take my knight. So here I had to start calculating. Bishop takes knight. It's a possibility. Bishop takes knight is a possibility, but I would like to keep my light square bishop, because if you look at the position, he has so many light squares. His light squares are weak. So it would be nice to keep the light square bishop for the attack. Knight takes knight. It's better. Now, again, he has a couple of options, so we'll look at what he can try to do here, because he can take the e knight, he can take the f knight with the pawn, or he can take with rook. So he can do many different things here. So my opponent played rook takes f3. We'll take a look at that. So let's take a look at some other possibilities. Now, if he takes back with the pawn, I was planning to play bishop c4 check. Now he has two options, to play king g7 or king h8. If he goes king h8, I will take h takes g4, and now he can take back on f3 with the rook or pawn. If he takes with the pawn, a discovery check, he takes, and queen takes h7 mate. Again, blocking is just too weak. So now let's take a look if he plays king g7 here. It's a better move. I will take again. Now if he takes back with a pawn, we go check. He has to take, check, and check with the rook. He blocks it. Queen g6 mate. Okay. So he has to play rook takes f3, the only move in this position. I take queen takes e4. Now I'm attacking on the rook, and also again I have pressure on h7. So he plays rook h3. Now what do you do here? You could castle, but here we have an opportunity to win the rook. So you play bishop e5 check. He takes, and we go rook takes h3. Now also threatening to take on h7. So he has to play knight g6 to stop that threat. And now we play castle queenside. King is safe, and now threatening to play rook dh1, and I mean, even though black has two pieces for a rook, but I actually have a pawn also, so I will have very strong center, and position is, I think, winning for white here. So next move is rook d to h1, and bishop d3 if he plays knight h4. So it's just the position of the black king is just weak here. So that's why he didn't play this line. So let's take a look at the other possibility. He played rook takes f3, and he can also take back with a pawn. But if he takes back with a pawn, I will play the same move that I did in the game. So I don't want to show you here, because I actually want you to find this move, because to be honest, at first when I went to this, I didn't see this move. I was thinking to more kind of traditional moves that I have here, you know, like a normal type of moves. But this particular move is very strong, and I believe my opponent perhaps missed this or underestimated how strong this move is, because after the next move, I think white is almost winning. Big advantage for white after the next move. It's not so easy, because there are so many things I can try to do here. There's so many knight moves I can take, for example, on g4. So it's not so easy to choose which move is the best here for white. You could do that. You could do that, but in this position, I'm not sure if it's going to be as strong, because he's not going to take the knight. So he will do maybe perhaps knight f8. Now he's solidifying the position a little bit. See, that move actually gives him the break, which normally when you're attacking, you don't want to give a break to your opponent to solidify his position. Now he will solidify a little bit, and then now g4 pawn is hanging. His bishop is going to come in. So
c5 with the knight. And open up that powerful file for the queen bishop.
interesting move.
c5.
It's a very interesting move, knight c5. But you have something better, because knight c5, he will maybe play knight f8, for example. Knight c5, he will go knight f8.
Knight d2.
Knight d2. Now, when you're attacking, you usually want to go forward with your pieces. No, but I mean, knight d2 is a move. But knight d2, he will just take rook takes h3. But from general principles, when you're attacking, looks like it's going to be kind of a all-out game, yeah? White will sacrifice some material, go for all-out attack. So you don't want, if you bring the knight back to d2, then you're not going to be able to use this piece, soon for the attack. So it will be too far away. Knight d6 is the right move, absolutely. But of course, knight d6 is not a move you can just play. You have to see exactly what's behind it. But at first I was looking at some other moves, but then when I realized I have knight d6, suddenly I just realized I'm almost winning here. Let me show you some of the lines. In fact, maybe you can find it. So why this move is so strong. So as mentioned earlier, now once you move this knight, now I have this pressure on the diagonal on h7, and I'm threatening to play bishop takes h3, bishop takes h7. So let's see how he can first defend this idea. First of all, if he takes on d6, I will just play bishop h7 check, and then it's not so clear where he's going to put his king, and next move I will take a bishop on d6. So I also have now two bishops. Very powerful attack. So this is probably losing for him. So he needs to really defend somehow on h7. So let's take a look at the most, well, he played knight f8. That's probably the most natural move. But let's take a look what's going to happen if he just plays rook takes h3. He takes the second pawn now, and now he's 2 pawns up, and we still have to prove where is the compensation here. So white to play and win. Win, forced win. Knight to f5, we could do that, but knight is actually very active. And if you go knight to f5, he will maybe go knight f8 and try to protect on h7. Absolutely. Check. Now he has to take. Continue. Aha, queen takes rook.
It's good for a buckhouse.
Aha. Well, it's going to work if black goes back to g8. It's going to work because you have a mate. But unfortunately, he can go here. And see, yeah, if I had the light square bishop, then it would have been nice here. Put the light square bishop on f7, f5, h7. So it will be a mate. So that's why I can't play this move right away. But the idea is correct. Bishop h7. Now, first I weaken the position of the king. And now, stick with the plan. But how? We have to go for the mate because we sacrifice too much material now. I'm down a piece and a pawn. So now if I give him a break, he's going to consolidate. Then I will lose. Queen g6. So if he goes to f8, he just loses the rook. If he goes king h8, you're, I think, already familiar with the idea how you mate in this position, right? What do you do?
f7 is the coolest.
Yes. Well, yeah, I guess there are two ways to checkmate, but I'm talking about this bishop e5 I did that I showed you in a few other lines. Bishop f7 check, and you take on h7 mate. Knight f7 leads to also a nice mate because he has to take, and bishop e5 double checkmate, and it's just over.
That is cool.
Yeah. Yeah. So he has to play rook g7, best defense he has. So it's actually you have to still work. It's not like it's like check checkmate. It's not. So what do you do next?
E6.
Queen e6 check, king f8 only move. And for a moment it seems like, wait, we gave a couple of checks and now we don't have checks and we're down a piece. He wants to play knight f6 next move and then also trap the queen. So now you really have to find this move. Bishop to e5, good move. Now you open up the h file for the rook to go to, and if he takes your bishop, just check and mate. But what if he plays knight f6? Attacking on your queen. Rook check, correct. Now he has to keep the rook here, otherwise you have this, I don't know if you notice, you also have this mate here. So he has to keep the rook there. So he has to go knight g8. Don't rush, don't rush. That's the most natural move, but don't rush. Rook takes knight check, correct. Deflecting the rook back, has to go back. Queen f7 mate. Okay? So I had to see all this actually before sacrificing, before actually even playing knight d6, because very important to have these lines. Otherwise I'm down material. So that's why knight d6 is very strong. He can play rook h3. When we do the over-review of the game, we will go over these lines again, because I know it's not simple, it's complicated. But now he played knight f8. It's another move. Looks like he just defended on h7. And now he is also threatening to take on d6. And now what do you do here? He wants to take on d6, win a piece, also wants to take on h3. In the next move, it's kind of similar. Bishop takes h7, very good, yes. I played that move, and now he didn't take, actually, because if he takes, he actually loses immediately. So let's take a look why. If he takes, queen g6 check. Now he has two options. He has to go king f8 or king h8. If he goes king h8, now again I take, because I need to, well, sorry, actually I don't need to do this now. I can just check. I just check, and he has to block the check with the piece. He has to put something on f6. Could be a rook, bishop, doesn't matter. Whatever he does, next move is knight f7 mate. So just knight f7 mate. So this loses immediately, but he has to go king f8, and now it's again, it's not so easy, because if I take on h7, he takes my knight. So you have to find a really strong move here. Queen h6 check, he just goes back to g8. So I have checks, but only perpetual. So actually, the king is, well,
Right to F7, queen to F7.
well, rook is guarding it.
Oh, see that rook's back.
So what can you do here? See, when you're attacking usually, and let's say I'm attacking with two pieces here, right? And it looks like it's just, I need another piece here, right? You usually need that extra piece, extra force here to be able to break through. So you think of what can you do to bring another piece, because you bring another piece, then you're going to have a good chance here.
Sets up a check.
Well, yeah, he suggested that move, but that just queen h6, he just goes back to g8. So
Legibly a pawn?
so he just goes here. Well, I could move the, you mean take?
Yeah.
I could do that, but that idea, it's more effective when the king is on h8. It's more effective then. Here it's not as effective. I mean, it's probably it's a playable move, but there's something better, something that just wins the game here. Bishop e5, absolutely. Bishop e5. Now you just simply make this improving move, improve the position of the bishop, and now threaten checkmate. So let's see what he can do to stop that. It seems like he's got so many pieces, the knight, bishop, queen, the rook, but he's got 4 pieces around the king to defend, but actually he can't really do anything. It's, that's why I really like this position here after bishop e5, because first let's take a look if he takes the knight. He eliminates the knight, now we go bishop d6. So now it's basically mated. The only way to get out of it has to sacrifice the queen, and I just take the queen with a check. So this loses. Now my threat is queen g7. He cannot put a minor piece like a knight or a bishop on f6, because then he just gets mated. So the only move he has in this position is rook f6. Then I just take. Again, he cannot take my bishop because there's a mate on f7. Has to take on d6. Bishop takes e7. Check. If he takes with the queen, hg. And now I'm threatening to take the knight on h7. So he cannot move it. The only square he can move it to, he cannot protect it, so he can move it here. Rook h8. Checkmate. Okay? So he cannot do that. So yeah, it was very, very important to find this move bishop e5, because without this move, this whole idea of knight d6 sacrificing the bishop wouldn't work. So that's why when I played bishop h7, my opponent played king g7. Now,
Is he planning to escape with the king at this point? What's his objective?
well, he just
And he's lost. I mean, he's going to have to hide the king behind the bishop. And how's he going to get there?
well, well, he's just trying to survive. I mean, if he takes the bishop, he just loses right away. King is actually safer on g7 than on h8 here, because if you put it on h8, then I can take hg, and then h file is going to be open too. So king is actually safe. It's his best move here. At least he's not losing right away. So now I need to bring this bishop into the game, right? So, and I do that with a tempo. And tempo is very important. Check. Now he blocked bishop f6. And now I don't have a way to break through right away. So I don't have anything right away here, but I definitely need my rook in the game, right? I can't just attack without this rook. So I take. Hey, now I'm not even down any material. So before I was down a pawn, no, but now I'm not even down any material here. So now he took the pawn, bishop g4. Next move is very important to find. It's a strong move, and now the rook on f3 is misplaced. And now I'm thinking of how I can trap this piece. I can't do it right away, but in a couple of moves you will see that I trapped this rook. How I did that. You could, but you leave your bishop hanging. So I actually like the rook on. I mean, rook g1. It may work, but you have something better. It's forcing basically. I'm not giving him that break that I mentioned. When you're attacking, you don't want to give the opponent a break. So if I give him a break, he plays queen d7 and he's a little bit consolidating here. So I don't want to allow him to play queen d7.
Pressure play. If a pressure play, it's an intermediate step leading to a final.
Yeah. Well, the game ended in just 4 or 5 moves, basically. That's how bad his position is here. But you have to find this move. Yeah, but if you look at the position, knight f5, I trade my active knight on d6, right? For the bishop, I'm still much better, but you can do something better than that. Bishop f5, very good, because my bishop is not doing that much here. Bishop did his job. I took his pawn, weakened the position of the king. Now I would like to trade this bishop. And now his bishop is trapped, so he's forced to take it. He can defend this bishop. So first he took on e5. Now I have a choice. I could take on g4. But this way he may play rook takes e3 check, pawn takes, and he takes on d6. Even though I'm up a exchange, probably winning, but it's not so easy, to find a win immediately here. So that's why I didn't want to do that. I want to keep my strong knight, so I took d takes e5. And now he played queen a5 check. Now you have to find, if you make the wrong move, actually white loses here. It's not a very difficult move, but you have to see that he still has the bishop right here. So you can't put the king here or here, because he will just take and check me. So that's why I don't, and I can, definitely you don't want to exchange queens because you have a very strong attack, and if you do that here after the exchange, you lose a piece here because he has 2 pieces attacking on it. So king f1 only move. And now if he wants to protect his bishop, the only way for him to do that is to play queen b4. But if he does this, can you find a move that wins this game immediately? a3. Excellent move, yeah. Sometimes when you're attacking on one side of the board, you also have to see what is going on the other side of the board and see that you have a move like a3. You simply attack the queen, and now all the squares the queen can go to on the 4th rank to protect his bishop. I'm controlling the squares. So he has to move the queen back, and I win the bishop, and I'm up a piece. So this is very important that I have the move a3 actually, because without a3 then, I'm probably still winning, but it's at least he can survive for a little bit. So king f1. Now he played bishop takes f5. I play knight f5 check, and now he has only two options. He can't go king g6 because then I can do a discovery check and win the rook. So he played king f7. But what if he plays king g8? How do you win if he goes king g8 here?
Knight e7.
You could do knight f7, but knight e7. But remember, I mentioned that I want to trap this rook, and I have him trapped here. So let's try to trap him, because we win exchange and we still attack. Absolutely, king g2, and now rook is trapped. I mean, if he takes on f5, I just take back. I'm up exchange with a winning attack. So he plays g4, only move. I could check on h6 and win the pawn, winning, but there is a better move. Remember, when you see a good move, you look for a better one. Absolutely, rook h4 now. I will take on g4 with a check, and the rook along with it. So that's why I didn't go king g8. So he played king f7. It's move number 22, and after my next move he immediately resigned. Immediately resigned. So let's see.
Tricked them. We told them not to retreat when they were attacking.
Yeah. You could go king g2, which is winning also. King g2, g4, and rook h4, and I mean there are many ways to win here. I mean there are many ways to win, but yes.
No, I give you guys a hint.
I like the knight move. Knight releasing the queen. So the knight check.
Knight is you could check, but let's try to trap the rook. Knight to d4, excellent. Knight to d4, excellent. Yeah, there you go.
Comment, I guess.
Yeah, somebody mentioned knight d4 in the back, but I guess they weren't so sure. So knight d4, and now rook is trapped. No squares to go to. Rook is trapped. So that's why Grandmaster Naiditsch resigned, and this is the highest rated player that I beat in just 23 moves. So again, he's almost 2700 player and #1 player in Germany. So again, I think the problem in this game for him was he just played too aggressive in the opening without development, playing knight e4, f5, and then playing g5. Now we'll do an overview of this game, and also some people who came a little bit late will see it as well, okay? So you will be finding the moves as white, and I will play the moves for black, okay? So just raise your hand, okay? And then I will call you and we can do a review of this short game, okay? So g6. Continue, yes? Absolutely. But it's going to get complicated, right? g5. Now you have to start calculating. Now he attacked my bishop. Where should I retreat this bishop?
H2.
Very good move. Now he takes. And again, when you play a position like this, from my experience, I can tell you, when there's so many different possibilities, the best thing for you is not to rush and spend your time, okay? If you're playing a normal game, let's say you have an hour, hour and a half for the game, spend time here, because if I would have rushed here, I might have played a different move here. So take your time. In positions like this, you have to calculate many different variations and then realize which one is the best, that the one that can give you an advantage. Now, what did I play here? knight takes, right? Why is it better to take with a knight than a bishop? Remember? See, I mentioned this, right? Why is it better to take with a knight rather than bishop?
You want to keep the light square.
Because?
You want to keep the light square bishop.
Why? Why I want to keep the light square bishop?
It puts pressure on the h7 pawn, and he's got a lot of light squares that are.
Excellent. That's what you have to say. Perfect. So you want to make sure you keep your light square bishop here. Remember, it was very active, this bishop in this game, so I can use it as attacking force. So my bishop is much stronger here for the attack than a knight, because his light squares are weak. So I want to have a light square bishop on the board. That's why I took with a knight. So now he captured. Rook takes f3. And now the surprising, very strong move. Yes?
The move was knight to d6, but
Excellent.
we didn't mention knight takes g5.
Yes, we didn't mention this move because we need the knight. If we sacrifice the knight, we would have a check, but I don't think we can mate him here, like he will do here. Perhaps we still have some initiative here, but you know, we could get a position like this with a knight on d6. It's much stronger. I mean, we have some checks. We have queen g6, but I think objectively, I don't think we have a mate here. You know, so that's why it's better to keep the knight. Knight is very strong on d6. It's extremely rare. That's why I didn't see this move right away when I was playing it, because you know, it's extremely rare you actually can play a move like this. Most of the time, it's not going to be a good idea, because either he's going to take, or either you're just going to end up taking the c8 bishop. And I don't want to take the c8 bishop here, because this bishop never moved. So I don't want to make so many moves with my knight, 1, 2, 3, 4, and just take a bishop. I will lose so many tempos by taking a piece that never moved. Okay? So when I played knight d6, I'm not planning on taking the bishop. I just want to use this square. It's a very active square. So he played knight f8. I'd like you to tell me again why rook h3 is losing. We looked at this. Now, this is not the game. This is just the subvalidation here. How do you break through here? Bishop takes h7. Rook takes h7. Follow it up. Check by queen. Yeah, sorry, we looked at this. Yeah, but this line doesn't quite work because king escapes on g6. So we go check first. If he goes to h8, then bishop e5 check, and mate, or knight f7 and then bishop e5 mate. So he goes rook g7. Now yes. Not yet, not yet. Queen check first. Move order is very important. Very important. It's very important because combination could, sometimes it wouldn't work. Most of the time, you have to make sure you have the right move order. Bishop e5 now, and now you have rook h8 mate. And if he goes knight f6, how do we mate him? Don't rush. Your queen is under attack too. So it looks like, wait a minute, the queen is trapped. Knight g8. Check. Very good. So he played that's why he played knight f8 here. Now You still take it, absolutely. He played king g7, but why he cannot take here? You remember why he cannot take this? Check on the queen. Now if he goes king h8, we check with the bishop. Now he has to block the check. With any piece he blocks knight f7 mate because that rook is now, for example, is pinned. Can't take it. So knight d6, knight f8, bishop h7, and if he plays king f8, bishop, absolutely. Very important move. Without this move, this whole sacrifice wouldn't work here. And now I'm threatening queen g7 mate, and he's in big trouble. If he takes my knight, then I take back with the bishop. Then king has no squares to go to. The only way to get out of this is to sacrifice the queen, and he only has 2 minor pieces. It's not a sufficient compensation for the queen. So he has to play rook f6, and then we take, check. If he takes with the king, we just take on h7. The knight is hanging. And if he takes with the queen, now we just take, and now it's a good timing. We just take the pawn, and now rook comes in into the game. So he's lost. So he played after the sacrifice I took, he played king g7. Continue.
Bishop e5 check.
Bishop e5 check, very good. Bishop f6. Pawn takes, pawn takes. Remember, now I'm already thinking, okay, this rook is awkward on f3. What can I do to trap it? What can I do to trap this rook on a t? Seems like, you know, he came in, but now he cannot really go back.
Remove its defender.
Remove its defender. How?
Bishop f5.
Very good. He takes. Do I want to win the exchange and kind of get into complications, or I want to keep the strong knight on d6? Keep the strong knight, right? Takes. Check. King to f1. Don't go to e2. King to f1. If he goes queen b4, trying to defend the bishop, you remember the quiet move? A3. You always have to look at the whole board, right? Don't just stay focused where you're attacking. You know, you might be attacking on one side of the board, but might have a very strong move on the other side, like here. A3, and queen cannot stay on the 4th rank, has to go back, and you win the bishop and the game. So he played bishop f5 check. Knight takes f5. He played king f7, but if he goes king g8, this is also losing because of not yet. Knight to d4 was against king g2, g4, rook h4, excellent. Take the pawn on g4 with a check and take the rook also. So he is lost. So he played king f7. This is, of course, loses to discovery check, wins the rook. And he played king f7, and the last move of this game, after which he resigned. Knight to d4. This time not going forward, going back, but attacking the rook, and the rook is trapped on f3. And he resigned. Very good.